But instead, it became one of the most valuable discoveries the collecting world has ever seen. Imagine pulling out what looks like an ordinary 1989 Lincoln penny. No shine, no special packaging, just a simple piece of copper-plated zinc you've seen 1,000 times before. You toss it on your dresser without a second thought. But what if that tiny coin was secretly worth up to $1.6 million? Collectors are still talking about the moment a man in the Midwest sent in a handful of pocket change to be appraised, just for fun. He almost didn't bother. But buried among dull pennies was a 1989 Lincoln cent that shouldn't have existed. A minting blunder so rare, so unexpected, it sent shockwaves through the hobby. Overnight, his pocket change turned into $1 million miracle. And here's the part that keeps collectors awake at night. Thousands more of these coins might still be hidden in homes, purses, and old coffee cans across America, because the secret of the 1989 no mint mark penny is not on the surface. It's a mystery that begins in the heart of the U.S. Mint, a year where millions of pennies rolled off the presses. Yet a few slipped through with an error so astonishing that experts still struggle to explain how it happened. But before we reveal the exact mistake, pay close attention. This is where most people look away and leave a fortune behind. The United States Mint was transitioning dies, experimenting, pushing faster production than ever before. Somewhere in that process, a special die intended for testing was accidentally used to strike real circulation coins. Coins that escaped into the everyday world. Coins that were never supposed to exist. Coins with details only the most careful eyes can spot. One collector who found one said his hands were shaking so badly he almost dropped it. He knew instantly this wasn't just any penny. It had crisp features, deeper relief, and sharp edges that screamed of a die never meant for mass use. But even he didn't know how much it would be worth until bidding began. Dealers fought viciously. Prices smashed expectations. One bidder shouted that if he didn't win it, he would regret it for the rest of his life. After what felt like an eternity, the final price hit 7 figures. More than $1 million for a coin most people ignore every single day. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Rumors spread that other versions of this mysterious 1989 penny existed. Versions with doubling on the date. Versions with the wrong metal mixture. Versions where faint hidden details prove their origins in a moment of chaos inside the mint. Each error type could be worth a staggering fortune. If you're holding your breath right now, that's good. Because the truth is, the error is not obvious. You have to look closely. Even professionals almost miss it. Collectors were shocked when experts revealed the real secret. Some of these 1989 pennies were struck using leftover dies originally prepared for a proof or experimental minting run. Some show incredibly sharp design elements, especially around Lincoln's beard, his coat, his profile outline. Others show light doubling on the date or the word liberty that shouldn't appear under normal conditions. They look almost too perfect and too flawed at the same time. But here's an even bigger twist. There is no mint mark, and that might sound normal for Philadelphia pennies until you look closer and realize what shouldn't be there at all. Certain coins have subtle anomalies like unintentional polishing marks near the rim, or the spacing around "In God We Trust" is microscopically different. These are the clues that separate a regular 1-cent coin from a life-changing treasure. Collectors are desperate to find another. Dealers would chase you down for the chance to make an offer. Imagine holding something so valuable, yet so small, that your brain struggles to believe your eyes. You stare at a penny, and suddenly, it's a ticket to a completely new life. But the danger of this story is that most people give up too soon. They glance and say it looks normal. They drop it back into circulation. They let $1 million slip right through their fingers. There's another chilling part of the mystery. Some claim more error coins were destroyed before ever leaving the mint. But nobody knows how many escaped. The estimate ranges from only a few to a few hundred. That makes these pennies not just rare, but nearly mythical. The kind of find collectors dream about and spend decades hunting. Right now, someone in America has one sitting in a jar. Dust on top. Forgotten. Waiting. Maybe that someone is you. Let me show you exactly how to check. This is the moment you've been waiting for. Take every 1989 penny you have. Hold it under a bright light. First, look at Lincoln's profile. The details around his neck and hair should look unusually sharp, almost carved. Next, check for doubling on the date 1989 and on liberty. It might be slight, but if it's there, your heart is about to pound. Run your finger along the rim. These special errors sometimes show a raised, unusually crisp edge. Proof like stronger strike pressure. Then tilt the coin slowly side to side. If the fields look glassy or proof level smooth, something incredible might be in your hands. Perfection is suspicious. If your 1989 penny looks too good to be true, it just might be worth millions. Take a breath. Because if you find one, everything changes. People who discover coins like this describe the moment like a lightning strike. 1 second you're staring at a penny. The next second, your entire life feels brand new. Collectors have turned pocket change into a retirement plan, into a dream home, into security for their families. And all it took was noticing the one coin nobody else paid attention to. So don't underestimate the power of that little Lincoln cent check, everyone. Keep the strange ones aside. Trust your instincts. Because mistakes at the mint turn into miracles in your hands. But sold for nearly $1.5 million. That's right, a 1981 no mint mark Lincoln penny. A coin so ordinary looking that millions of people have tossed it aside without a second thought, has been valued at a jaw-dropping $1.6 million. And the crazy part? Most people have no idea WHY.IT all started with a coin collector in Illinois. Someone who wasn't even looking for anything special. One night, while rolling up loose change from an old coffee jar, he spotted something odd. A penny that looked different. Not damaged, not shiny, just different. The color, the edges, even the texture felt off. He set it aside, not realizing that this small decision would change his life forever. Weeks later, that same penny was in the hands of professional graders. And when the results came back, the experts were speechless. What they found inside that unassuming little coin would soon stun the entire coin world. This wasn't your average 1981 penny. It was struck in the final years before the U.S. Mint changed the metal composition of the cent, when copper was being replaced by zinc. During that transition, a few mysterious coins were created in error, using leftover copper planchets that weren't supposed to exist anymore. These rare transitional errors became the holy grail for collectors, and that's exactly what this 1981 no mint mark penny turned out to be. A minting mistake so rare that only a handful were ever confirmed to exist. A single wrong planchet, a single overlooked detail, and suddenly you have $1 million treasure hiding in plain sight. But what happened next stunned even the experts. When this coin hit the auction block, bidding erupted like wildfire. Collectors from around the world fought for it, not just because it was rare, but because it told a story. A story about the end of an era, about how one man's pocket change became his ticket to fortune. When the final hammer dropped, the price stunned everyone. $1.6 million. And here's the thing. No one knows how many of these are still out there. You see, 1981 was a strange year for the Lincoln cent. It was the calm before the storm, before the massive shift to zinc in 1982. During that transition, the mint produced billions of pennies with no mint mark in Philadelphia. Most were ordinary, but a tiny handful weren't. Collectors have long whispered about these mysterious no mint mark 1981 cents that look slightly thicker, heavier, or even brighter. These subtle clues can separate a common 1-cent coin from a fortune. But here's where things get truly fascinating. One of the easiest ways to spot a potentially valuable 1981 penny is by its weight. The older copper versions weigh about 3.11 grams, while the zinc ones, the modern type, weigh only 2.5 grams. That difference might sound small, but it's everything. If you've got a 1981 penny with no mint mark that tips your scale closer to that 3.11 mark, your hands might be holding history, but don't stop there. Some of these valuable pennies also show striking errors, slight doubling in the date, extra thickness in the lettering, or faint die cracks that collectors adore. Even the smallest imperfection, when caused during minting, can send values skyrocketing. And just when you think you've seen it all, there's another twist. Rumors circulate about a secret batch of 1981 pennies minted on experimental planchets. These planchets had slightly different metallic blends, and the mint never officially confirmed how many were made, or even if they were meant for circulation. A few lucky finds suggest these experimental coins may have slipped out of the mint and into circulation by accident. Collectors call them the ghost coins of the early 80s. They look like normal pennies until you look closer. So imagine this. A coin you've seen 1,000 times before, the kind you hand to a cashier without thinking twice, could be worth more than a luxury car, more than a house, more than your entire retirement fund. But what makes these 1981 no-mint mark pennies so desirable isn't just rarity, it's timing. They mark the very last chapter of America's true copper pennies. After 1982, the U.S. Mint shifted completely to zinc-based cents coated with copper, cheaper to produce, but lacking that rich, heavy feel that older collectors love. That transition made every surviving copper penny a little piece of history. They carry an even deeper mystery. No letter means it came from Philadelphia, a mint known for massive production, but occasionally for rare, accidental perfection. Now here's the part that gives collectors chills. Some experts believe there are more undiscovered 1981 copper pennies hiding in old jars, junk drawers, and dusty piggy banks across America. Each one could be worth thousands. Or, if you hit the jackpot like that Illinois collector, over $1 million. And yet, every day, countless people spend them without realizing what they had. Just imagine, you grab a handful of change at the gas station, a few dull pennies jingling together, and among them sits one that could pay off your mortgage. Take your pennies from 1981 and place them on a digital scale. If one comes out heavier, around that 3.11 grams mark, you might just have one of those rare copper survivors. Next, look closely under good lighting, maybe even a magnifier. Focus on the date and the word Liberty. Doubling, stretching, or faint cracks are your clues. And if your coin passes those first tests, don't rush to sell it online or at a pawn shop. These coins deserve professional authentication. A certified grader can confirm the metal composition and strike characteristics. Only then will you truly know what you have, and only then could you be looking at $1 million payday. But remember, even if your penny isn't worth that much, every coin tells a story. And the story of the 1981 no-mint mark penny is one of hidden value, overlooked history, and pure luck. Sometimes, fortune doesn't come in gold or silver. It comes in copper, sitting quietly in your pocket, waiting for you to notice. Dealers are now keeping a sharp eye on 1981 pennies that appear brighter, thicker, or slightly off in tone. Auctions have seen smaller examples of this type sell for tens of thousands. And yet, one coin still holds the record, that $1.6 million miracle that shocked the world. It wasn't luck alone that uncovered it. It was curiosity, a decision to look closer at something everyone else ignored. So the next time you empty your wallet or search through your change, pause for a second. Because that ordinary-looking penny sitting there, with no mint mark, dated 1981, might just be the key to your $1 million discovery. Collectors have learned this lesson the hard way. The biggest treasures often look the smallest. But when someone finally took a closer look, they realized they were holding a piece of history. A coin now valued at an unbelievable $1.7 million. It's the 1972 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. A coin so ordinary-looking, so unassuming, that millions of people have probably touched one without ever realizing what they had. Yet this tiny copper coin has shaken the entire coin-collecting world because of one shocking secret that almost no one noticed for 50 years. The story begins in 1972, a time when gas cost less than 40 cents a gallon, and the U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln pennies. The Philadelphia Mint, responsible for most of the country's pennies, didn't use a mint mark. So, every coin simply bore the date, 1972, and Abraham Lincoln's calm, determined face. But what no one realized at first was that hidden among those billions was a small batch of coins with a mysterious, accidental flaw. It wasn't a chip, a crack, or a stain. It was something far more intriguing, a doubling. A perfect, ghost-like image of the date and lettering, caused by a rare mistake during the minting process. You see, in 1972, dies, the metal stamps used to strike each penny, were hand-engraved and manually pressed into alignment. Sometimes, the die shifted ever so slightly before striking the next coin, creating a subtle but visible duplicate impression. Most of these errors went unnoticed, but the few that did survive became instant legends. But what happened next stunned collectors across the country. A few eagle-eyed hobbyists discovered that on certain 1972 pennies, the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" appeared doubled, not slightly, but dramatically. The letters seemed to shimmer, as though printed twice, perfectly misaligned. The date itself, 1972, looked bold and doubled, like a ghostly echo stamped into the metal. When these discoveries reached the coin community, collectors couldn't believe their eyes. Some thought it was a trick of the light. Others thought it was fake. But professional graders confirmed it. This was a genuine mint error, and one of the clearest, boldest examples of doubling ever seen on a Lincoln penny. Soon, news spread fast. Coin dealers began buying every 1972 penny they could find, hoping to strike gold. Stories surfaced of people finding these rare pennies and change in old jars, even tucked away in boxes from their childhood. One man from Ohio reportedly found his in an old coffee can while cleaning out his garage. He'd been saving pennies since the 1970s, never thinking twice about them. When he finally decided to sort them, he noticed something odd about one coin. The letters looked thicker. He sent it off to be appraised, and when it came back, the result left him speechless. It was a genuine 1972 double-die penny, verified and graded in near-perfect condition. That one penny, the same one he almost threw into a Coinstar machine, sold for over $1 million. Not all 1972 no-mint mark pennies are valuable. Only a few specific ones contain this doubling, known officially as the 1972 double-die obverse. That tiny detail is what separates an ordinary 1-cent coin from a life-changing fortune. Collectors were stunned. Dealers rushed to secure any they could find, and auctions started to heat up like never before. Bidding wars erupted. What once was pocket change became a treasure hunt. One pristine example sold for over $1.7 million, breaking records and rewriting coin history because of rarity and clarity. Unlike most double dies, which show faint or partial doubling, the 1972 variety is bold and unmistakable. Even without magnification, you can see it with the naked eye. Every collector dreams of finding one because it's not just rare, it's visually stunning. Imagine holding that penny in your hand. You turn it under the light, and suddenly, the letters seem to dance. The date glows with a second shadow. You feel that rush, that spark of realization, that you might be holding something worth more than your car, maybe your house. But what happened next pushed things even further. Counterfeiters began producing fake double dies, trying to cash in on the craze. Suddenly, the coin world became divided. Those who could tell the real ones from the fakes, and those who couldn't. Grading companies like PCGS and NGC became the ultimate judges, authenticating each coin and assigning them grades that determined their true market value. And as more people learned about the 1972 no-mint mark double die, the hunt intensified. Collectors began checking every penny they came across, squinting at dates, comparing letters, searching for that ghostly second image. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Out of all the known 1972 double dies, there are actually several minor varieties, but only one major one that commands those million-dollar prices. That's the one you want to find. On the obverse, the front of the coin, focus on the date, 1972. The doubling is strongest there. The 1 and 9 will appear thick, almost shadowed. Look closely at the Liberty and In God We Trust. Each letter should look doubled, almost like two impressions slightly offset. The effect is so dramatic that even under normal light, you can see it without magnification. If you think you've got one, don't clean it. Don't polish it. Don't even rub it with your thumb. Any tiny scratch could ruin the surface and destroy its value. Instead, place it in a protective holder and get it professionally graded. Collectors have made life-changing money this way. And not just once. Every few years, another perfectly preserved 1972 double-die surfaces, shocking the market again and reigniting the chase. And that's what makes this coin so legendary. It's not just about money. It's about discovery. It's the thrill of knowing that something as simple as a penny could hide a secret worth millions. But wait. There's another twist most people don't know. When these coins were first discovered, the mint actually refused to acknowledge the mistake. They kept producing normal 1972 pennies, flooding the market. As a result, the rare double dies were buried among billions of ordinary ones, making them nearly impossible to find, and far more valuable today. Over the decades, these coins have become icons in the collecting community. They've appeared in museums, major auctions, and even television specials about rare U.S. currency. Some collectors call it the ghost of 1972 because of that haunting double image. Others just call it their dream coin. Every time one appears at auction, bidders hold their breath. Prices skyrocket. Millionaires compete for a coin that cost 1 cent to make. And every time, someone walks away with a coin that changes their life. A small, copper miracle worth a fortune. So tonight, when you're emptying your pockets or sorting through an old jar of pennies, take a moment. Look closely at that 1972 no mint mark Lincoln penny. Tilt it in the light. See if those letters shimmer just a little too much. Because that tiny shimmer could be the difference between a penny and $1 million discovery. But it turned out to be worth nearly $2 million. A 1976 D. Lincoln penny that most people would have spent without a second thought has stunned collectors and dealers alike, fetching up to $1.8 million at private auctions. And the reason behind its value is as mysterious as it is shocking. A man in Denver cleaning out an old cigar box his father left behind. He's about to toss a handful of dirty pennies when one coin catches his eye. It looked normal at first, a coppery penny, worn and dull from years of use. But when he looked closer, something didn't feel right. The shine was different. The weight was off. The edges were slightly uneven. He thought it was nothing, until he checked the mint mark, that tiny D, under the date 1976. He had no idea that little mark would change his life forever. Collectors were stunned when this exact type of coin surfaced at an auction. Experts quickly confirmed it wasn't just any penny. It was a rare 1976 D minting anomaly, a coin struck under extraordinary conditions during America's bicentennial year. While the nation was celebrating 200 years of independence, something unusual happened at the Denver Mint. A small batch of Lincoln cents was accidentally struck on the wrong metal planchets, possibly intended for foreign coins or older experimental pieces. Those few mistakes, hidden in circulation for decades, became the holy grail of modern coin collecting. But here's where it gets wild. For years, people ignored these coins. Millions of 1976 pennies were minted. Most were spent, lost, melted down, or forgotten. So when one collector discovered a slightly off-colored penny in his pocket change and sold it for $1.8 million, it reignited a frenzy across the coin world. Dealers were shocked. Treasure hunters began raiding piggy banks, scouring old jars, and pulling up floorboards, convinced they might find one of their own. But what makes this penny so valuable isn't just its date. It's the mistakes hiding within it. One coin expert described it like this: "It's not the coin you see, it's the one you almost overlook." That's because these rare 1976 D pennies have subtle differences. A faint double strike on Lincoln's profile, a tiny doubling on the word liberty, or an unusual reddish-gold tone that comes from being struck on a foreign bronze planchet. Some even have slightly thicker rims or misaligned lettering, the kind of details you'd never notice unless you looked closely under magnification. And that's exactly why so many people are missing out. The man who sold his for over $1 million admitted he almost didn't check it. He said, "I thought it was just another old penny. It sat in my drawer for 20 years. But curiosity and a lucky moment turned it into a life-changing discovery." But here's where the story gets even stranger. During the 1970s, the U.S. Mint was experimenting with metal compositions, trying to find cheaper materials for pennies. Some experts believe a few 1976 D pennies were mistakenly struck on leftover bronze blanks from before 1974, when copper prices were soaring. Others think these coins may have been test strikes, prototypes never meant to leave the mint. However it happened, a handful slipped through the cracks, and today, they're worth a small fortune. Collectors say there could still be more out there. And that's where you come in. Imagine finding one in your own change. You dump out an old jar of coins, sort through them half asleep, and then, there it is. A 1976 D penny with just the faintest difference in color and texture. You look at the mint mark. The lettering seems slightly thicker. The surface gleams with an odd, almost golden tint. Your heart starts racing. Could this be the one? First, check the weight. Normal 1976 D pennies should weigh about 3.11 grams if they're copper, or 2.5 grams if they're zinc. But the ultra-rare ones may fall slightly outside those numbers. If your coin feels just a bit heavier or lighter, that's a clue. Next, study Lincoln's profile. If you see a faint doubling, especially around the eyes or the word liberty, that's another telltale sign. And don't forget the edges. Some of these rare pennies have a slightly wider rim or an irregular strike that sets them apart. Now here's the twist that most people miss. Color. Over time, the special planchets these coins were struck on can age differently. Instead of turning the usual dull brown or red, they sometimes develop a deeper bronze glow, even hints of gold. That unusual tone is what first caught the Denver man's attention and ultimately led to his million-dollar payday. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After his story hit the news, hundreds of collectors sent their coins to grading companies, hoping lightning would strike twice. A few came close, finding valuable but less rare 1976 D double die pennies worth hundreds or even thousands. Yet the ultra-rare bronze planchet coins remain almost mythical. Only a handful are confirmed, and here's where the legend deepens. Some experts believe a few of these coins may still be sitting inside sealed mint rolls, untouched since 1976. Imagine that, unopened rolls of pennies that could be hiding a million-dollar secret. Collectors have started calling it the hidden bicentennial. Because while everyone talks about the 1976 quarters and dollars celebrating America's 200 years, hardly anyone remembers that same year's humble Lincoln penny, the coin that quietly became a millionaire maker. Think about it. A penny that once bought a stick of gum now worth more than a mansion. That it's stories like these that keep collectors searching night after night, under the glow of magnifying lamps and microscopes, chasing that once-in-a-lifetime find. Some do it for the money, others for the thrill. But everyone dreams of holding that one coin that changes everything. And if history has taught us anything, it's that these treasures often appear where you least expect them, in the bottom of an old jar, behind a dresser, or in a handful of change from the grocery store. Look for the 1976 D mint mark. Check for doubling on Lincoln's face. Weigh the coin carefully and pay attention to that mysterious golden hue. Don't assume it's ordinary just because it's a penny, because the next one you find might just be extraordinary. Collectors are still buzzing about these discoveries. Dealers are paying big premiums for verified examples. And auctions, when one of these rare pennies appears, become absolute spectacles. One coin, worth $1.8 million. One mistake at the Denver Mint that turned copper into gold. And the truth is, nobody knows how many are left to be found. So tonight, before you go to bed, maybe take a second look at that old coffee can of coins you've been meaning to cash in. Somewhere among those pennies could be the key to your next million-dollar discovery. But it's now worth nearly $2 million. The 1965 no mint mark Lincoln penny. A coin so ordinary, so common-looking, that millions of people have probably flipped it into fountains, dropped it in car seats, or handed it over for coffee without a second thought. But one version of this penny changed a collector's life. It started with a story that no one believed at first. A man from Pennsylvania claimed he found a simple 1965 penny while rolling change for his grandkids. It looked normal, no mint mark, a little worn, just another old Lincoln cent. But something about the way it shimmered in the light caught his eye. He couldn't explain it. He almost tossed it aside. But something inside told him, hold on. That decision would change everything. You see, 1965 was a turning point in U.S. coin history. The mint was under massive pressure. Silver prices were soaring, and the nation was running short on coins. To save money, the U.S. Mint made a bold move. They removed mint marks entirely. No D for Denver. No S for San Francisco. Every coin looked the same. That's why the 1965 Lincoln penny has no mint mark. But hidden among the billions made that year, a few slipped through the cracks that weren't supposed to exist at all. Here's where the mystery deepens. In 1965, some leftover 1964 copper planchets, blanks meant for the previous year's coins, were accidentally fed into the presses. These planchets were slightly different in metal composition, and they gave the coins a subtle, distinct hue and weight. Most went unnoticed. But when collectors later tested these coins, they realized they were holding a piece of minting chaos, a transitional error worth a fortune. And that brings us back to the man from Pennsylvania. When he took his coin to a local shop, the dealer froze. He weighed it. The scale flashed 3.11 grams, not the normal 3.10. That tiny difference, less than the weight of a grain of sand, meant one thing. This penny wasn't an ordinary 1965 strike. It was one of the rare transitional errors, minted on a leftover 1964 copper planchet, Word spread fast. Collectors whispered, forums exploded, and soon auction houses were calling. This one coin, pulled from a jar of change, was authenticated and graded as one of the finest transitional errors ever found. The final hammer price? Just shy of $1.9 million. And yes, it all began with a penny that looked like any other. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When this discovery made headlines, it triggered a national treasure hunt. People who'd ignored their old coins for decades suddenly grabbed magnifying glasses and scales, desperate to find their own fortune hiding in plain sight. And they were right to look, because several other examples have since surfaced, each fetching hundreds of thousands, sometimes even more, depending on their condition. Here's what makes this coin even more incredible. The 1965 penny marks the first full year of the copper-zinc blend era, right before the mint began experimenting with cheaper metals. That makes any anomaly from this year a window into a major transition in U.S. coinage. If your 1965 penny shows even the slightest signs of the older 1964 planchet composition, like a different tone, a thicker rim, or an unusual luster, you might be sitting on a hidden gem. Collectors were shocked when experts confirmed that not all of these transitional coins were made in the same facility. Some came from the Denver presses, even though 1965 coins weren't supposed to have mint marks. That mystery remains unsolved. Were they experimental strikes, accidental mixes, or deliberate test pieces that escaped into circulation? No one knows for sure. But that's part of what makes them so valuable. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. But imagine the number of these coins still out there, tucked away in piggy banks, boxes, and dresser drawers. Remember, over 1 billion 1965 pennies were minted. If even a fraction of those had slight variations, thousands of unsuspecting people might be holding hidden treasure right now. But before you rush to dig through your change, here's what separates a fortune from a fake lead. First, the coin must weigh exactly 3.11 grams. Give or take a hundredth. Use a precise digital scale. Second, check the edge and the color under bright light. Genuine transitional 1965 pennies have a richer reddish hue, a leftover fingerprint from the 1964 copper blend. And third, if the coin shows sharp, crisp details despite its age, that's a good sign. Many error coins from this era were struck with exceptional clarity because they were among the first off a fresh die. Dealers are paying massive money for authenticated examples. Some even offer finders bonuses just for the chance to examine potential transitional errors. That's how crazy this market has become. And with new collectors entering the scene every day, prices continue to climb. What was once a few $1,000s in the early 2000s is now pushing toward $2 million, and the record could easily be broken again. But there's another twist to this story. Not all 1965 pennies worth big money are transitional errors. A few double-die varieties also exist, coins where the design was struck twice, creating subtle doubling on Lincoln's date, eye, or lettering. These errors are far rarer than people realize, and even minor examples can command serious cash if verified. Imagine finding one with both the double die and transitional error characteristics. That would be the holy grail of 1965 pennies. Collectors often say the 1965 penny teaches the greatest lesson in coin history. Never underestimate what looks ordinary. Because every coin tells a story. Some tell the story of our country's economy. Some tell the story of mistakes, experiments, and chance. But the rare 1965 no-mint mark penny tells a story of discovery, of how something as small as a cent can carry the weight of a $1 million dream. And that dream is still alive. Across the U.S., from dusty garage drawers to old coffee cans, people are finding forgotten change that could change their lives. Every time a new one surfaces, it reignites hope. Because maybe the next great discovery isn't sitting in a vault or museum. Maybe it's sitting in your home. Think about that. Somewhere out there, a tiny copper coin, minted 60 years ago, is waiting to be found. A coin that defied time, survived decades of circulation, and now holds the power to make someone a millionaire. So here's what you do tonight. Grab a magnifying glass, a good light, and a digital scale. Go through every 1965 penny you can find. Look for that deeper red shine, that perfect weight, and those sharp, almost too perfect details. And if you find something that feels a little different, don't dismiss it. That's exactly how every great coin discovery begins. Because the truth is, these treasures weren't lost. They were simply waiting for someone like you to notice. And if luck, patience, and history are on your side, the next coin you pull from your pocket could be worth nearly $2 million. Sharpness. Most people would have tossed it aside without a second thought. But this man decided to take a closer look. That decision changed his life forever. When he brought it to a local coin dealer, the room went quiet. The dealer pulled out his magnifier, squinted, and said just 3 words, "You've got something." What they discovered was a minting error so rare, it shouldn't have existed at all. Experts would later confirm it was one of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever found, selling for nearly $1 million. To understand, you have to go back to 1998, a year when the Denver Mint was running at full capacity. Billions of pennies were being struck. But in that chaos, a few rare mistakes slipped through the cracks. A handful of pennies left the mint with doubled dies, slightly misplaced mint marks, and even planchets intended for other denominations. One of those mistakes created the legendary 1998 D error, a coin that became a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Collectors call it a hidden miracle. The doubling on the Lincoln Memorial, the subtle shifts in lettering, and the faint die clash that only appears under the right lighting, all came together to form a coin worth a fortune. And here's the wild part. Thousands of these pennies were circulated before anyone even realized they existed. They went through banks, vending machines, and grocery store tills, quietly passing from hand to hand like tiny, overlooked pieces of history. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When word got out about the first confirmed $1 million 1998 D penny, collectors everywhere began tearing through jars of change, hunting for that one tiny difference. Coin forums lit up overnight. Dealers were flooded with calls. People who'd never even thought about coin collecting suddenly became obsessed. One man even claimed he found his in an old coffee can that had been sitting in his garage for over 20 years. He almost threw it out before spotting the slightly off-center strike and the faint doubling in the words, United States of America. When experts verified it, the appraisal came back at over $850,000 and still climbing in private offers. But there's more to this story. Not every 1998 D penny is worth $1 million, but every one of them tells a story. Some have minor die errors that can still fetch thousands. Others are near-perfect examples in mint state condition, the kind grading companies label as MS68 or MS69. The higher the grade, the rarer the find, and the bigger the paycheck. Collectors say that a flawless 1998 D penny has a unique luster, a smooth copper-red surface that almost glows. It's not just a coin, it's a piece of art, a frozen moment in minting history. Dealers are paying huge premiums for any example with pristine detail and clear strike. And here's where it gets interesting. The Denver Mint in 1998 experimented with slightly adjusted die alignments to improve production efficiency. A few of those dies created coins with a marginally tilted mint mark or faint doubling around Lincoln's I and the words, "In God We Trust." Those subtle errors are what separate a 1-cent piece from a coin worth $1 million. But most people miss them. That's why stories like this keep happening. Everyday people finding life-changing treasures in plain sight. Imagine you're at the grocery store, getting your change back, and there it is, a slightly off-color penny with that little D under the date. Most people wouldn't think twice. But you? You'd know to look closer. Coin experts recommend using a 10x magnifier in bright, natural light. Check for doubling on the Lincoln Memorial, especially the columns and the word Liberty. Examine the mint mark carefully. A misplaced D or an unusually thick one could mean you've struck gold. And remember, condition is everything. Even a rare error can lose value if it's scratched or worn. Always handle potential treasures by the edges. And if you suspect you found something, don't clean it. Cleaning a coin can destroy its collector value instantly. Now, here's the part most people don't know. The U.S. Mint never officially acknowledged the existence of the most valuable 1998 D errors. That means these coins exist in a strange gray area of numismatic history. Real, verified by experts, but never officially documented. That mystery only adds to their allure. It's like owning a ghost, something real that shouldn't exist. Dealers still whisper about them at coin shows. Some even believe there are still a few hidden out there, sealed in old rolls or forgotten coin jars, waiting for someone with a sharp eye to find them. Imagine holding a coin that was once worth a penny, now insured for $1 million. Imagine the weight of that moment, the disbelief, the rush of excitement, the realization that something so small could change everything. That's what makes the 1998 D. Lincoln penny more than just a coin. It's a story of luck, history, and the magic of paying attention to what others overlook. The best finds aren't always buried in the ground. Sometimes they're hiding in your pocket. And that couldn't be truer here. So next time you see a 1998 D penny, don't just toss it into a jar. Hold it up to the light. Look closely at the details, the sharpness of Lincoln's profile, the clarity of the mint mark, the evenness of the rim. That small effort could lead to $1 million surprise.